Or I guess technically. We need to have 4 of us here out of the 7 for the quorum, so we're good there. And we will jump right into things with Mr. Hinsman and the park dedication for Walden edition.
Park and Recreation Commissioners, looking at park dedication again here tonight, this one for the Walden edition. You may recall that this property here is something that the Park and Rec Commission looked at a couple of years ago, back in 2021, and they did make a recommendation at that time to take cash in lieu of land. We did have some changes on the site. At that time, it was about 160 single-family housing units. The proposal that's coming forward today is about 450, so a significant increase in the number of housing units. So we did want to bring this back to the commission today to discuss various methods of park dedication and to get a recommendation from the commission as to how we should proceed on this one. So a little bit of background on the property. We're looking at this property here, about 71 acres on Highway 316 and Michael Avenue. About 50-some acres here is buildable. You can see this line by the trees, which falls off on a ridge down to the sand coulee. This area is part of the development, but not going to be developed. The developer is seeking to have that property designated or acquired by the DNR for SNA designation, similar to what the sand coulee land is to the north here. So we're really focusing on this part of the property here. And this property is proposed to be a combination of a number of different types of housing units. There are townhomes, twin homes, senior housing products, active adults, and assisted living in this development here. We did have the the Planning Committee of City Council, Council members Fox, Liefeld, and Fulch review the concept plan for the development earlier this year. One of the things they noted from the meeting was a desire to have the Park and Recreation Commission relook at park dedication to determine, with the change in the number of units and the development, whether something should be done differently than what was done before, which was cash in lieu. The property itself is divided into 2 different phases, about 403 units in the first phase, and then all the single-family units would be in the second phase. So I'm going to go back to here. This is kind of what the site is altogether, with different types of uses. So as you're coming into the development on Michael Avenue, you have townhome here in blue, about 59 of those. And then you've got senior units, 24 of those in the orange. In the green, adjacent to the existing single family in South Pines, would be twin home units. And then in the center of the site, what's being termed active adults, 36 units there. Assisted living units for seniors, 60. And then a general apartment unit complex here of about 170 units. That constitutes the first phase of development. And then the second phase of the development would be everything in purple, which would be 51 single-family lots. Again, with park dedication, we collect or have the dedication occur officially at the time of final plat. What the developer is proposing at this point is what's termed preliminary plat, which is to put together all of the engineering plans, subdivision, and really the overall plan for development. And then it will be officially subdivided with the final plat at a later date. Although it's a preliminary plat, most of the heavy lifting comes during this phase of the development. So we're going through a pretty rigorous review of the development impacts and so forth on this. So subdivision ordinance. We have under the subdivision ordinance the ability to have park dedication. As you may recall, over the past year, we've had major changes to the subdivision ordinance pertaining to park dedication, but really comes down to having park dedication in 3 ways. We could either take the physical land, we could take a payment of cash in lieu of physical land, or some sort of combination between the both. So I ran a couple of scenarios in your packet here as to what would happen. Under our current scenario for physical land dedication, the physical land dedication would be about 33.6 acres. Now, the development itself is about 71 acres. So the physical land dedication called for under the code would be roughly half of the entire property itself. When we take a look at park dedication for physical land dedication, we take a look at a few different things. One of those is our comprehensive plan. This is a section from the comprehensive park plan. Property here is listed in purple. It doesn't show any park that's plan for this area does show existing parks with Tuttle and South Pines that are the closest adjacent, and then some trail areas here, part of the Greenway Loop going down through the Sand Coulee, a trail going down Highway 316, and another what they call connecting trail kind of on the south end of it. Some of these items have been incorporated within the plans for this development, some of them have not, but that is really what your comprehensive plan calls out. The plan does not call for a park in this location. One of the things that the plan does do is it sets a standard of when do you develop parks and how long of a distance is it for people to travel to a neighborhood park. General rule of thumb we use is a half mile. When we take a look at the subdivision here, Tuttle Park is adjacent just to the north. Most of the properties within the subdivision would be under a half mile from that park, which is the maximum distance we like to have. The question may come up too is, Tuttle Park was designed for a service of X number of people. This is certainly a substantial increase above that. How does this impact that? Also looking at the type of individuals that are going to be in the subdivision. There is a whole gamut from people that are going to be small kids to seniors. What different park needs might they have within here? So we don't have anything within the comprehensive plan that gives us guidance on a park in this area. It doesn't signify that. It looks at open space and what might be preserved on that one. The Sand Coulee area would be preserved. It's not buildable. We wouldn't consider this as a park of dedication because it is not buildable at this point. That would just be something that is taken in addition. So the park dedication would really come off of that buildable portion of the properties. The developer himself, let's go down to this map, is proposing a few amenities within the subdivision itself. And some of these, might be considered by the board as being part of the park dedication. What he has on the plan here is trails that go through the park. There's nice trail systems that go through. This is part of the regional trail, I would suppose, along Highway 316. You also have some pickleball court areas here, and down here that are proposed, a dog park, swimming pool for the apartment. A lot of these amenities, from what I see right now, are very geared towards the individuals within the subdivision itself and not really towards the greater community. And when we're looking at taking private improvements as public park dedication, we're really taking a look at what availability and desire is there from the greater community to use those. So that's just something to ponder there in your analysis of this. If we were to take cash in lieu of land, we did have a new calculation of that last year as well. The number for the entire subdivision would be a payment of just under $1.2 million, $1,199,800, and that would be paid at the time of final plat. So really, those are the options that you have before us. You have a cash in lieu option of about $1.2 million. You have a physical land dedication of about 30-some acres, or you might be able to do some combination between the both. I know on Zoom we've got Chris Beadle, who is a representative of Land Equity Development, who is here as well, so I can bring him into the meeting if you have any questions for him. So I could stand for any questions you may have as well. Thanks.
With the addition of the pickleball courts that they put in, the dog park, you're saying that that's really geared toward the residents of that immediate addition, correct?
Yeah, Chris, you want to tackle that one?
Yeah, from what we understand now, yes, those amenities are intended to serve the residents of that neighborhood. So in order for a developer to receive credit for park dedication, the facility must be open to the public at all times, just like the rest of our facilities are. Yep.
Right. And Tuttle, even at the farthest point, is just a little bit over that half a mile mark then?
Yeah, let's go back to this map here. Yeah, so Tuttle, when you're looking at the very southern part of this development, it's at that about half-mile threshold.
And Tuttle can handle the addition.
Tuttle is just under 6 acres, which is right around the size that we would target for a neighborhood park. Yeah, and as John mentioned, the land dedication for Tuttle, and Tuttle was developed for that neighborhood. This development is looking at, if we use Hastings data of 2.31 persons per household as a rough estimate, granted, there's a variety of styles of housing in here. You're looking at potentially another 1,000 people. And again, as John mentioned, that's all ages of people. So there's a decent sized playground at Tuttle. There's a baseball field at Tuttle, and there's a basketball court, as well as a little bit of trail and a fair bit of open space. Some of that has been historically programmed for little kids soccer. And that's basically that's what's at Tuttle.
So the question then is, that I would have is, would that, as John pointed out earlier, place a bigger strain on Tuttle as a playground area if you were to add 1,000 people? What kind of burden would that place on that particular playground?
A little bit unknown, but for certain, there would be an increased demand on Tuttle to serve the recreational needs of that community within a half a mile. I have not done any analysis to see within our park system how many residents live, what the densest population around any particular neighborhood park is. I have not done those evaluations. I think some of the questions here, as John mentions, there is a max of 33-something acres that could be requested as park dedication. There's 1.2 million basically that could be cash in lieu. There's a combination of the two.
Right.
And as John mentions, and as our comp plan states, stated, if looking at a neighborhood park, we would be wanting to target that 5 acres for a neighborhood park as a minimum size.
Right, okay.
So
One other question I'd have, and that's for the credit for construction of park facilities. With the developer offering to develop these amenities, the first question that came to my mind is, who would have responsibility thereafter for upkeep and maintenance of those facilities?
that would be yet to be determined. I believe, from what I understand right now, they are intended to be private facilities available for the residents of that community.
Oh, so that would not fit the requirement then that it would be open to all?
I don't think we have an answer to what their intention is, if it is intended to be public or if it is intended to be private. So you got, in my mind, you have two different kind of scenarios. One,
Exactly.
I kind of think of it as like a gated community, right? So those are private facilities for the residents of that. I'm not trying to say that this is intended to be a gated community by any means, just as an example. There will be public facilities into here between streets and trails. We would just have to have that question answered if they are intended to be publicly available or if they're intended to serve just the residents of this neighborhood, or if there's some sort of HOA membership required to get into a court, a pool, a dog park, those sorts of things. But if they were to be considered for park dedication, they would be required to be open to the public. They could be privately maintained then, or they could be publicly maintained. And that would be part of a development agreement moving forward on what the process was.
Yeah, and Mr. Chair, Chris Beadle, one of the representatives for the developer, has raised his hand at Zoom, so possibly he might have some more explanation. If you care to hear it, I could bring him into the meeting. Okay, hold on. Okay, Chris, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can. Can you guys hear me?
Yep, I can hear you as well. So, saw your hand raised there. This is Chris Beadle. He is the representative for Land Equity Development. So, go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, so guys, we're open to having it be either public or private. It could go either way. We haven't made a determination. I guess it depends on what it's how much it'll offset the 1.2 million. But we are open to making it public for everybody to be able to utilize it. You know, we're not steadfast one way or the other.
If I could throw in yet another curveball, I'm getting kind of good at this. Is there a possibility of a hybrid solution between 7 and 8? That is, that the city would participate in some of the development of these amenities with the possibility then of guaranteeing that they would be open to the public?
We would be absolutely open to that.
Thank you.
Yep.
Just one quick question is, it says, you know, the lieu of cash of the 1.2 million is after the last lot is sold.
Actually, it would be when the
No?
property is final platted prior to
Oh, okay.
the development of it, yes.
Then I'm okay with that, sorry.
Okay.
I was thinking, that's a long time and we don't know exactly when that's gonna be. And that's a lot of interest that the city could make
Okay.
over that amount of money. So I will let that go. Thank you.
Without getting, I mean, without seeing a lot of the details as far as, you know, how much space the dog park's gonna be, how much space the pickleball courts. Excuse me, I know that pickleball's become a pretty big deal in town, but we just did all those pickleball courts on roadside. Do we see a big demand where the public is going to want to utilize those things in that specific spot?
Yes.
Believe
I
the,
think so.
the public will demand, there will be a demand for pickleball courts by the public wherever they are at.
Preferably indoors somewhere.
They were playing today, Scott.
I know, I saw.
They were doing frisbee golf today too. It's like, geez.
I've had friends out at golf in February, which is bizarre.
It's just crazy. It's crazy weather.
Yeah, I'm not complaining.
No, neither am I.
And I don't know if we have enough information to make any kind of recommendation right now, just because of the fact that it's pretty open-ended as far as options are concerned. Another part of it is the conversations we've had around the pretty picture for Vets Park, which is relatively close, if we add things like pickleball courts out there too. You know, because that would then determine, is there still going to be as big of a demand for it here for the public? You know?
But that's not really relevant to this parcel. I mean, the distance and everything else.
Well, I mean, people are going to drive from Apple Valley to Hastings to play pickleball,
Right. but
right? Or they're going to
the
drive
point
across
is-
town to play it now.
But what we're addressing here is just the development of this particular parcel and meeting the requirements for that. Those other considerations actually are secondary. I guess I kind of agree with Bruce. Is it possible for the commission to recommend that this whole thing go back one more time to be run through the grinder again and come up with something a little bit, I'm not sure how to phrase it, a little bit more detailed or better possibilities. Right now, we're dealing with some pretty nebulous things here.
Sure. Maybe I ask this question for some clarification here. So when you take a look at the two options at the extreme, which is the full dedication of a 30-some acre park or dedication completely in cash, Are either of those two options something that the board would be considering, or are they looking at something that might be in between that we could come back with some options for you?
I know that I would look at that setup and think, there's no way that I could say, hey, take 30-plus acres of that property and make it a park. That, to me, is not a good idea. However, if we don't have the details, and you told me right now I had to make a decision, pay the 1.2 million and not get any credit for the parks that are, or the entertainment spaces that they're building, because I don't know anything about them, other than some pickleball courts and a dog park. I mean, that's pretty vague.
Yeah.
And I would hope that that would be kind of the general consensus,
I think,
But that's, obviously, I've got 3 other people sitting here with me
I
that
think,
need to
I think
voice on that.
there does seem to be a consensus that neither extreme solution is an ideal one. I think something in between is probably optimal.
Okay. No, that's helpful in the direction, so we can provide some options and work with the developer
You two
and
think.
bring something back to you that's more in the hybrid of a dedication of some land, perhaps some use of some facilities, as well as some cash paid.
Yeah. Could we-
I think the biggest thing is the fact of the matter that the rest of the public can use the pickleball courts. I understand that the pool is part of that apartment complex. The dog park is the dog park. I mean, people are gonna walk their dogs anyhow. But if we don't have maintenance on some of this stuff, that also cuts our costs there also. So I really think that we need to look at that, and I agree with everybody else, but I think in lieu of money, as long as our other citizens of the community have access to some of this, I mean, I have no issues with letting them have that part of it and paying the money, as long as our other citizens have access to these amenities. But yet, then they have to maintain them. I know that sounds horrible, but then they have to maintain them instead of us as citizens.
Okay, understand that. Mr. Chair, Chris Beadle had his hand up to speak as well, if you wanted to take
Yeah,
it.
guys, real quick, we're open, I mean, we're not married to pickleball courts, it's just that what's been, was aren't popular, it's what everybody's looking for, I'm sure your park head understands that. And that's why we come in, I mean, we'd be happy to meet with you guys and maybe change up some of how the park is. I mean, we're nothing set in stone, and if that made it more appealing, we're trying to be pretty easy to work with, and if it's something you guys want, I would love for your citizens to be able to have access to, we're more than happy to maybe change up some of how it's laid out or whatever. I mean, there's things that could potentially be done, as opposed to doing all pickleball courts, maybe put in a volleyball court or
Right.
basketball court, and it's still, nothing's set in stone that way yet.
Well, and I think it's more along the lines of right now just it being unknown, honestly. That's what worries me, is I just don't know, what size the stuff is. And I think that for the most part, a Tuttle, from a playground standpoint, should be able to handle it. And if it can't, and it needs to be a little bit bigger, we can utilize some of that $1 million to, because it's got to be replaced eventually anyway, right, Chris? When's that due for replacement?
I do not have the
Probably 5 years
schedule on the
ago.
top
Okay,
of my head.
I thought maybe you'd know.
Probably 5 years ago, but.
But I mean, that makes that part of it easier and makes it easier to say, we can look at just that little chunk of stuff for where they had the pickleball courts, or maybe they put a volleyball court, whatever gets decided to put in there, that's a couple acres, then there is a little bit of a credit there. Again, obviously, again, going back to the thought process of it's open to the public. I mean, obviously, I'm not saying open your pool, that would be foolish.
Right,
Yep.
yeah.
In the interest of perhaps moving this a little bit further, would it help if there were a motion on the floor that we asked that some solution between the two extremes be, or some solutions between the two extremes be worked out and possibly presented at a future Parks and Recreation Commission meeting.
Yeah, I think that would be very helpful.
In that case, I would like to make that motion.
I'll second that.
And I will third that motion. Thanks, buddy.
So the further discussion piece then, since I technically have to ask if there's further discussion, we could look at that of maybe even doing a workshop where the representative comes in and says, you know, like, we just have a chance to just throw out ideas and look at different options that we could do there and have a better idea on what kind of offset there's gonna be, you know, oh, would be worth $100,000 worth of, you know, that offset from here, so we can all make informed decisions.
As long as we're conforming with open meeting laws.
Yeah,
Yeah, workshops are open.
yeah,
Yeah, it's a
So-
great idea. I think that's probably the best for all of us.
Microphone.
And Chris, I appreciate you being on Zoom with us tonight also
Yeah, no
to
problem.
answer some questions as they came up.
Yeah.
Obviously, as a park board, we all want to work with you and make this work, but we also want to make sure that we're helping our citizens.
Absolutely.
Bruce,
Everybody's got a plan.
Of course.
may I suggest that you offer what you just said as an amendment to my motion, because I do like that.
essentially, it's just tabling the decision right now to get together and gather more information and come back later for another official vote on what to accept.
What would be helpful for us is finding out if you guys have specific things that you want, let us know. You know, that way we can, you know, design around it.
Yeah, and Chris, I think the same sort of information would be requested of you. So when we talk about pickleball courts, how many are we talking about? When we talk about dog park, what's the acreage that we're talking about?
I think the dog park is approximately an acre, somewhere in there, if I remember correctly. I don't have the plan.
Sure.
But, and then were there like 8 pickleball courts, 10 of them,
Okay,
maybe somewhere in there?
yeah, so that.
Looks like 10.
Bringing that information back to the table would be helpful for the commission. Another part of that, right, you mentioned the possibility of them being open to the public. What does it look like for publicly available parking to be able to access those facilities as well?
Well, and
And if there's any other areas within the development where other recreation amenities might be added and benefit the development overall.
As you can see on the plan, I think we're only covering 35% of the 53 acres with non-permeable surfaces. So, I mean, there's quite a bit of green space in there to add additional things for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, the green space, look, that was one thing that caught my eye right away, is there's quite a bit of green space in there too, which is really
Yeah.
nice to see.
It's very good.
Yeah. State-of-the-art development here, design.
yeah, it looks
Yeah, it's beautiful.
I appreciate that.
May I call the question on that then?
What's that?
May I call the question on that then?
Well, then I guess we'll have to go to the vote of just tabling it for now and scheduling a workshop with Chris and anybody on his team that would be interested in doing it, and
Yeah, yeah.
that way we can move forward at a different date. Those in favor?
I will second,
Okay,
yeah.
so we have a second, so those in favor, or I should say, any further discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay,
Well,
There,
thank you,
passes.
Chris. Yeah, thank you, Chris.
table.
All right, I appreciate you guys' time.
Yep, appreciate you
Thank
zooming in.
Please- Yeah. If
Okay,
you need anything, please reach out.
okay. Talk to you
you.
soon. Bye.
All right, thanks, guys, bye.
All right. Well, that's all I had. Thanks, guys.
As far as timing of stuff, is that something we want to do in 2 weeks or do it replacing a meeting? That's the best option you think on that?
John, are you aware of any time sensitivities for this?
Right now, Commissioners, the application is still not yet complete for review. the earliest it would go before Planning Commission would be the 25th of March. So your meeting in March looks to be on the 20th.
So we would need to have a meeting with them.
Yeah.
We
And
need
the-
to have a meeting with them before then.
Well, one
That could
option
be.
too you could do is start the meeting as a workshop and then go into a regular meeting afterwards in case there's something to take action on. That's another option.
Actually, I like that idea. That way we can actually make decisions and just move forward to it.
Yeah,
Instead of tabling it again for another
Right.
meeting and then
sure.
they're another month behind.
Okay.
I think what I would intend would be the March 20,
Okay.
if that's our regular meeting date.
Okay.
And do we meet at 6 again to,
To be determined
Okay.
whether it's 5 PM workshop or 6 PM workshop with a meeting to follow.
perfect,
And we're thinking here again, obviously.
yeah.
Yeah.
What's the date on that?
Yeah, typically
Yeah,
with, workshop, we just go to one of the conference rooms. It's easier to speak on
Yeah.
that one. And we've got, we could put all the plans up on the TV set and then have the regular meeting in here, like
Okay,
normal.
that sounds great.
Okay. All right.
It is a really pretty development though.
It is. John, does this,
I like this development better than what was actually first proposed.
Yeah.
So,
does this help?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
I know there is a lot to think about with this development, so narrowing the parameters of it and having some options to choose from will make it easier, I think. So no, that's been helpful, thank you.
Yeah, and I mean, because I don't know all the formulas and stuff, like, I have no idea what 8 pickleball courts could knock off, for the cash in lieu, and I don't wanna go forward without knowing that.
Well, and I wonder if that's something they just dropped in there, as they're doing their plan, knowing that that's a popular thing.
Wow.
But that doesn't serve the entire community there as well as we'd probably like. I mean, it serves a portion of that community, but not the single family or the apartments that would have more.
and like Wendy,
Children.
And I were saying, I think instead of 8 or 9 pickleball courts, there's 6, and then there's a basketball court or something like that. But those are things that we can discuss with the developer at that point to try to figure out exactly how do we want to make this work.
Okay.
So,
All right, thank you, guys.
Thank you.
thank you.
Thanks, John.
Okay, Chris, the department updates.
We'll keep it brief tonight. Thank you. An FYI, we have a request for quotes out to 3 different consultants for our 2024 trail project, which is the Three Rivers Trail between East 31st Street and the Tuttle neighborhood. So that is planned and funded in the budget to be reconstructed.
Oh, yeah, that's a bad one.
You have to mow it more than anything else. Our arena refrigeration and roofing project is set to kick off in April. So again, we will have no summer ice at the arena. We will have summer turf, and that'll actually go in next month. But the arena will be very busy over the summer, and we'll be working hard to make sure that we have ice in September or October as regularly scheduled.
Thanks, John.
The Lake Rebecca project master planning continues. We are struck out with our first round of trying to get all of the stakeholders together for a meeting, so we've got another doodle poll out for that, which reaches now into about the middle of March for the latest dates that are available right now. So that will continue. The Vermilion River Greenway Trail, roughly speaking, is from the parking lot off of East 10th or Ravenna Trail at CP Adams Park, through CP Adams, down by the MnDOT truck station, through Vermilion Falls, through Vermilion Linear Park, to about the Highway 46 bridge. That is undergoing a county project this summer. They did a little bit in Vermilion Falls last year to do reconstruction and widening as well as a pedestrian bridge in Vermillion Linear Park to avoid some of the drainage issues with the culverts that we have there, as well as a trail realignment near Applebee's. So instead of coming by Applebee's and down to 21st Street and then back up to the trail, it'll cut through the woods. It'll be nice.
Very nice.
That is a $1.7 million project that the county is fully funding. We are also working with the county for co-branded trail wayfinding signage along both the MRG Mississippi River Greenway, which again is out by the YMCA, down Sand Dam through the riverfront to Levy Park, and the Vermillion River Greenway. So we have some meetings with consultants and county staff set up to be able to figure out what that co-branding might look like. It's been a good partnership with the county so far, and I anticipate that to continue.
Will that be part of the signage that we looked at? I don't even remember how long ago at this point.
3-4 months ago.
Yep, the co-branding piece would have some of those elements. Don't know exactly what that is yet, because we've got to work together as partners. Obviously want to make sure that the county gets credit, right, for this being a regional trail in there. Through both of the trails, multi-million-dollar contribution to our trail system here in town, as well as making sure that people that come to Hastings to use our local trails understand they're also on a local trail. But they can connect to Point Douglas, they can connect to Shars Bluff, eventually they can connect to Red Wing, all those sorts of things. We are also working with the county and an engineering firm on the riverbank erosion along the Mississippi River in Hastings River Flats that has almost reached the trail down there. So the engineering firm has been hired, and they should be getting going here soon with all of the design, engineering, and permitting for that. There's discussions with Dakota County to do a cost share for that, because if it takes out their regional trail, what are they gonna do?
What's River Flats?
Hastings River Flats. So if you are at the public boat launch at the Mississippi River,
Yes.
in JC Park there, and you go upstream to the Corps of Engineers, the lock and dam, the area between the boat launch and the Corps is Hastings River Flats Park.
That separates
Yeah.
the river from Lake Rebecca, basically,
Yep,
is what it is.
where the old piece of the bridge is,
Yeah.
that area in there.
Yeah, there's a nice worn out spot there.
Yeah, we've got 3 different parks in one area.
Which is really
That's
hard.
why, I was just
Yes.
confused about that, yes.
Yeah, so again, the county is being great partners in that. I mentioned the Vermillion River Greenway Trail. They also have some pavement work that'll be done on that this year as well. So a lot of county fund injection into Hastings and our trail system specifically this year, which is fantastic. And Lake Isabel Park, we're going to be doing some coordination with the contractors, since that project has unavoidably stretched over multiple years. We want to have some discussions with them and really be fair. They're going to see cost increases with their labor and materials, so we want to be fair about that and see what kind of agreement we can come up to, but we would anticipate kicking that off in the spring here, get that thing done.
Were they able to get rid of all the contaminants and everything else? That's what I kind of figured when I.
Has the
was
work
done.
continued through the winter?
The remediation work was done, so the excavation of the contaminated soils
They
and the
got a crack in the
backfilling,
soil.
no, backfilling was done as well.
Okay.
There will be a final attempt, final survey to make sure that all of the contaminated soils were removed. So there may be some spot areas that have to get excavated again outside of the work that they did, but we're pretty confident they've got 90% of it. Which is also good news that that project, that piece of the project came in kind of substantially under budget as well.
Good.
As did our 2023 trail project along Highway 20, or Highway 55. So
Good.
that's what we got.
Nice.
Awesome.
How long is the coolant and refrigeration thing supposed to take at the arena?
April through October.
Ooh,
That's ways lease by
Yep.
October.
Yep. And we do have a bit of a contingency plan to be able to rent temporary chillers if, ultimately, if the motor control center for the refrigeration system has not arrived, which we ordered late last year, October, November, knowing it was about a year's lead time. That's one of the critical pieces that we need to be able to turn the switches on. Everything else can be done, we just have to have
Yeah.
that piece in place to be able to have our refrigeration
Where's
system
it
work.
coming from?
Whatever the vendor, it's just one of those items in the industry, like electrical service panels that are hard to get right now.
Just like a lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
Some things are impossible, some things are very easy,
Mm-hmm.
so.
How is that pretty picture coming along for Vets Park now that we've got the arena one done?
We have not started that process yet. We did just discover that the 48 acres that is Vets Park right now is actually leased land from the state vets home. We knew that a portion of it was, did not know all of it was. That lease expires in 2032. So we are working to contact the state vets home and have some discussions with them about that leased property, as well as some other things. We do have a requirement with any new construction out there to get approval. Recognize that has not happened over the course of years. It did happen when the lease was brand new, but now that we know about this lease, we have to follow the rules. So we're working to contact the state and have some conversations with them.
Well, that's easy, right?
Should be. I hope so.
So what you're saying, in about 8 years, we could be looking for a new baseball field location?
I don't suspect that to be the case, but it is not our land and there is a lease that expires.
Fun.
Don't see I don't see the vets
No.
trying to expand what they have already. If they would have done it already. So,
They are on the books for a major renovation project at the vet's home.
yeah,
Yeah.
right,
Yeah. What that looks like at this point, I don't know.
exactly.
Yeah,
How long did that lease get signed for?
50 years.
It's a good lease.
Yeah, so 82. So that makes sense. Anything else?
Nope.
I guess that means we can look for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I first that one, or second that. Do whatever it is.
Time to go home. Thank you, guys.
Thirds and fourths?